According to the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, a Pan-American health organization which is a World Health Organization collaborating center and is fully affiliated with the University of Toronto, 83% of Ontario students in grade 12 drink alcohol. 49% of grade 12 students admit to binge drinking. 42% of Ontario students surveyed have used an illicit substance in the last year. 23% of Ontario students report that they were offered, sold, or given a drug at school in the last year. That's nearly 220,000 students. This documentary serves to inform students and adults alike about how prominent the issue of early drug and alcohol use in high schools really is. Many students don't realize the nuances surrounding the issue, how their peers become attracted to it, and how they're affected. It is often dismissed as a problem, or it is hidden from the public eye because it is deemed as unfixable and undesirable to acknowledge. This film aims to unapologetically address the issue of substance abuse amongst high school students. It is an epidemic that will only continue to grow if things do not change within our society. My name is Dermot O'Halloran. I'm a grade 12 student attending Don Mills Collegiate Institute in Toronto, and after a great deal of research, question asking, and persuasion to let me film and document my adventures, I'll be showing you around the drug and alcohol culture of adolescence in Toronto. A common misconception exists that by definition, a drug user is a bad person. In an effort to break this idea, I reached out to several of my former peers and asked about their experiences and opinions on drugs and alcohol, showing the Toronto drug and alcohol culture is not just limited to the stereotypical substance-abusing teen. The first guy I spoke to is a Toronto student attending Monarch Park Collegiate Institute, whose name will be changed to Charlie for the purpose of preserving his identity. He's had several experiences with drugs and alcohol, and has some pretty interesting opinions. So as a high school student, would you say it's easy to buy marijuana or easier than to buy alcohol?
I would say it's easier to buy marijuana because, in high school, after your first time doing it, everyone, expects you to yo, hit me up if you want some, kush. And
why do you think it's easier to buy pot than it is for alcohol?
Mainly, I guess it comes from the streets, there's a lot of people out there that try to sell drugs to get money, so, once you come at them, you try to get marijuana, but I guess for alcohol, it's more stricter, you need an age to actually buy it, you can't just walk in the LCBO and be like, yo, I want to buy this and this and this, I guess it's just easier for marijuana because you just go to your friend and be like, yo, I'll pay you $10 for a gram,
For sure.
I've had friends that they do it and then over time they lose, I guess, a short-term memory. You do you, man. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it defines who you are as a person, that's for sure, but when I did marijuana, I just sat there and I just relaxed, I was laughing like crazy, I was having a good time, but I wouldn't say that it makes me do illegal things, that's for sure, unlike other drugs,
So, why do you think weed is so associated with violence sometimes?
I don't think it's specifically weed, I think it's just basically any drug that's on the street, because it's a way to get money, and that's for sure, people promise things, they don't make the promises, other people ripped off from someone for their money, they're gonna come after you. I don't think it's specifically weed, I think it's home drugs.
And do you think if the government regulates it and legalizes it, do you think it's going to be harder for us to get as students?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's going to be an age limit on it. I don't think anyone can just walk in there, But when you're on the street, you can just hit up your friend and be like, yo, I just want a gram. But there's going to be taxes on it. It's going to have an increase in price. I don't think it'll be that easy for sure.
Charlie is an average performing student from Monarch Park CI. Apart from being an occasional consumer of alcohol and marijuana, he doesn't partake in any illegal activities. From Charlie alone, it's clear that you don't become a bad person by virtue of being a pot smoker. With regards to violence, Charlie believes that it doesn't matter what the commodity is. If it's illegal, and there's demand for it, then people will turn to violence to get it. It's not the substance itself, it's the money. I took the time to speak with Charlie again, as well as a handful of others, so I could learn more about how marijuana and alcohol plays a role in their lives, their opinions, and the effects it has on them and the school culture they learn in. When was the first time that you consumed the drug marijuana?
Well, last year.
Tell us your story.
You know, I was in an environment with a lot of friends, and there was weed, and we're like, hey, let's get f***ed up. And we're like, yeah, let's get f***ed up.
That's alright, cool.
I mean,
Yeah. How many times, if you had to guess, have you consumed marijuana?
I mean,
Nah, but like, I can blur your face so you can say the real number.
okay, then yeah, you know, probably like, honestly, if I had to guess, probably like easily 100 times.
Is it easier to buy pot than it is booze?
Yep.
How much easier?
A lot.
A lot easier.
Yep.
Which do you prefer?
Obviously, marijuana.
Obviously?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, it's just drinking upsets my stomach, you know?
How often do you consume illicit substances?
Once a week, probably on the weekends.
On the weekends?
Mm-hmm. Or just smoke like, you know, a spliff or a few spliffs. Probably about like 70 or 80% of my friends consume the devil's lettuce.
If you could choose to have never smoked marijuana, would you choose that?
No. I don't want to be one of those kids who's like stuck up and like, oh, marijuana's bad, but then you know you never tried it, so you never know. But yeah, I guess I tried it a little more than I should.
Are you fried right now?
I was like half an hour ago. I'm not gonna lie to you guys.
Really?
Yeah, like I came in, I just on the come down right now. I honestly I'm usually with a group of a posse of peeps, and we all just chill at someone's house. You know, go outside, smoke, come back in, play video games, you know, chill.
Is you smoking influenced by other people?
No.
So, if none of your friends did it, you would still just like ball up.
Yeah, I've always been kind of curious, you know, curiosity, curious little kid, but maybe not to the extent that I do, but I definitely have tried it. Definitely have smoked.
Do you have any regrets about experiences during smoking or just smoking itself?
Maybe that I seem to smoke a little too much, you know.
After speaking with this student from Danforth Tech, some of my conclusions became reaffirmed. After only a year of smoking weed, he had smoked over 100 times, and identified that alcohol was more dangerous after a session of binge drinking, which causes it to upset his stomach. He was never encouraged to wait to try smoking weed, but instead was told he should never do it. His quote-unquote curious mind didn't receive that very well, and in the 11th grade, he made his debut with drugs. There is a very good possibility that if it were discussed with more nuance in our society, that he would have put off trying to do it until he was older. He would have tried it eventually, as he said in the interview. As you heard him say multiple times, he does feel guilt about the volume he's consumed and how early he decided to do it. He too believes that it's not weed making anyone violent, his experience is, quote-unquote, get high and play video games. That's as benign a social effect as possible, suggesting that most opposition to marijuana legalization is purely aesthetic. It's such a regular part of lifestyle that he showed up to our interview already high. If it were more difficult and expensive to obtain, his rate of use would likely decrease out of necessity, and concerns regarding peer pressure would be less so. He's a good kid, but was abandoned by the system when he wasn't properly educated on the objective truths about drugs. He wishes to pursue criminology at a university in Ontario that looks for 70+ averages as their admission requirement, but acknowledges that that will be difficult.
After I walked and, I left, I walked from Broadview Station all the way to my house, and it was the most non-pleasant experience because I wanted to fall asleep on the sidewalk. So then I went home and then I just went to bed, and that was it. It was not a pleasant experience because I felt like I was going to die, and I also could not stop smiling, and I felt like I was floating in the air with the wind because the cold screws you over. And so we just sit there and we watch the friend that let us into his house. He's just playing video games, and we're all just staring into space. So after that, it was time to go home, and I had to go home, but all my other friends couldn't go home because their parents would probably find out. So stupid me decided to take 6 guys that were fried out of their mind back to my house, and that little he was laughing non-stop in front of my mom. So my mom was like, "Are you guys drunk?" And I said, "No, just having girl problems," and she believed it. I fell asleep on the floor, and my mom found me, and I was tripping, and I couldn't fall asleep because I kept seeing weird visuals in my mind. And then they left, and then I woke up, and I was still tripping for 2 days.
Do you think it was laced?
Yeah. I kept stuttering, and I was, and just, it took me a really long time from that day to finally think of what I do. For the couple days I felt like I was less intelligent than I was before for a pretty long time, like a month or two, and then I guess after that I got used to it.
Both of the students that spoke to me for this 15-minute info piece believe that they might have waited to do it until they were older if they knew the dangers involved. They also deny that marijuana acts as a gateway drug for the large majority of people, and instead actually keeps people away from things like prescription drugs and opioids. After the research I've done, it seems like legalization, regulation, and fact-based good-bad education about marijuana may very well be the best way to keep it out of the hands of youth and to prevent early experimentation with other substances. Vagueness, retribution, and morality-based education doesn't seem to be working, as this crisis has only been increasing since the 1990s. Instead, allowing marijuana to be a part of everyday society may be the best plan of action. The students I've spoken to certainly seem to think so.
Exactly what happened.
In several U.S. states that have legalized marijuana as of 2016, student usage rates have either dropped or remained stagnant, overdoses on opioids have significantly dropped, and tax revenues have skyrocketed, while crime has also dropped. It may be time for Canada to consider a similar plan of action, as well as making sure that Canadian youth are educated as to exactly what this kind of stuff is, and what the implications are for their health, their future, and their education.